Our story begins in the American state of Pennsylvania. An American family lives there, consisting of the father Mark, mother Mary and Helen, who is 19 years old, and Claire, who is 14 years old. The Miller family is considered one of the wealthy families and has a wealthy class. Helen and Claire were studying in the most prestigious schools, specifically at Lancaster Country Day School. The family is known to be close to each other, meaning there are no problems, and this was very clear on social media. As they say, no one has a full life. Helen, the older sister, suffered from a health problem and was diagnosed when she was young with cerebral palsy, which is damage to the brain before it is fully developed. This causes disturbances that affect body movement and sometimes greatly affect speech. In some cases, they lose speech completely. Helen's condition was very difficult. She could not speak, and when she spoke, she would say incomprehensible words. She was unable to walk, and she used a wheelchair. Her family made her happy in most of the daily tasks. Helen's family began to care for her greatly, especially her mother. Her relationship with her sister Claire was free of problems. There were no problems. Like what we said that Helen couldn't talk, meaning there were no problems between them. On the contrary, she supported her sister Helen and helped her. She used to go with him to all her doctor appointments. If Helen was tired and couldn't go to school, Claire would stay with him at home to help her. Now we enter the important part of Claire's life story on social media. Claire had a TikTok account and had 22,000 followers, which is a fairly good number. She made beautiful videos. Sometimes she would post a video with her mother and sometimes with her sister. She was obsessed with anime, games, and her clothing style, which was somewhat different. But what made his account turn from beautiful videos of a teenager to a bloody account of a murderer? How did this happen? Everything changed on February 22, 2021, when the police received a terrifying call from the Miller family home. The time of the call was 1 after midnight, but before we knew the content of the call, these are the videos that you see posted on Claire's account before she received the call. It was a filming that was considered suspicious to followers at the time. After 5 minutes, the police arrived at the family's home, and here they saw a terrifying bloody scene. The police approached the house and Claire received them. Her clothes were all covered in blood. She was bleeding and she looked like she had just had an accident from the blood on her, as if someone had stabbed her with a knife. The t-shirt she was wearing was covered in blood. The snow in front of the house was shortened, all of it was red with blood. As soon as the police entered the house, they were shocked to see the floor of Helen's room covered in blood and her bed covered in blood. Here, the policeman lifted the pillow and was shocked by what he saw. Helen was killed and stabbed brutally. Imagine the knife was still on her neck. At that moment, the mother and father were asleep and had no idea what had happened. The police called the ambulance and took Helen to the hospital, hoping she might survive. However, at 4:30, they announced Helen's death. In fact, the call that took place between the police and the person who reported the crime was Claire. She was crying and telling them, "I stabbed my sister," and she repeated this sentence more than once. However, this recording was not published, but a case was mentioned and it was also mentioned that Claire was in a state of shock and hysteria, and the police tried to calm Claire down. After the police arrived and saw Claire, they thought that she was also injured because of the large amount of blood on her clothes, but in reality, it was all the blood of her poor sister who could not defend herself. What happened was controlled by Claire. She entered her sister's room, and in her hand a knife, she started stabbing her sister in the chest and neck, and Helen couldn't defend herself or run away because she was paralyzed, so here Claire put a pillow over her face so she wouldn't scream and her family wouldn't hear. After she was sure that her sister was dead, she left the room and went to the garden of the house, and in her hand was a doll and gloves. Most likely, she was trying to clean her hands of blood by holding ice. Then Claire opened her phone and started filming videos that we saw at the time. Claire uploaded these dark videos, and no one knew that they were human blood, but in fact they were her sisters who had just been killed. Due to the seriousness of the crime, the authorities decided to charge Claire as an adult instead of a minor. She was charged with first-degree murder, which means premeditated murder. Due to the nature of the crime, Claire faced trial in the Pennsylvania adult court system. Not much has been made public about Claire's mental state at the time of the crime, but attorneys have argued that her mental and psychological state should be considered, especially since she was only 14 years old at the time of the incident. Impacts and reactions. This case has sparked widespread discussions about the mental health of adolescents and the importance of appropriate psychological support for them. Many have also questioned why a girl of Claire's age would commit such a crime. The local community and the general public were greatly shocked by this incident, especially since there were no prior warnings or clear signs of problems in the family or between the two sisters. Media coverage. The story spread quickly across the media and social media platforms, making it a public opinion issue that stirred feelings of sadness and surprise among many. The case has not been completely closed yet, and it still raises many questions about the real motives and circumstances surrounding it. And here we have reached the end of the story. I hope you liked it. Don't forget to like and subscribe.